Hi, and welcome to Happy Sewing. In this tutorial, we are making the Lucas Collared Onesie. The Lucas Collared Onesie sewing pattern is available at happysewing.com. The Lucas Collared Onesie sewing pattern has 5 pattern pieces: back pieces, a front piece, sleeves, the collar, and a helpful guide on making the button placket. I pinned the pattern pieces to the fabric and cut the pieces using a rotary cutter. The button placket piece looks like this. The stabilization must be 3 centimeters shorter than the placket. We press the stabilization on the wrong side of the button placket. We mark the lines on the button placket. This is the center line, cutting line, and stitch line. We are installing the button placket on the right side of the front piece. We start by finding the center point on the front piece. I like to fold the front piece like this and mark the center point. Align both center lines and pin the pieces together. With the stitching completed, we remove any hanging threads and start cutting at the cutting line. We are stitching down the edges. We can use a zigzag seam on a regular sewing machine or an overlocker. I'm using the BabyLock Victory overlocker. We fasten any loose threading and fold both sides of the button placket. Both sides are 1.5 centimeters. I recommend using glue to keep it in place while we press it. We fold the button placket inside the front piece. I keep it in place using a clip. We sew a straight stitch seam at the edge between the button placket and the front piece, also known as the button pole, on both sides. On precision work like this, I like to put the foot down and turn the flywheel to see that the needle hits the point that I want it to hit. Step is to sew the little stabilization box. The box will hold the bottom of the button placket in place. I fasten the opening of the button placket with pins and draw the box. I then sew in the box with a straight stitch seam. Keep in mind that the button placket can move while sewing. The button placket is attached, and we start working on the collar. The collar has 2 pieces and a stabilization piece. The stabilization I'm using is called Viligine. I place the stabilization on the wrong side of the collar and press it in place. The Viligine is attached when it gets a little transparent. I line the collar pieces up like this. I'm applying clips and stitching them together. I'm stitching it together using an overlocker. start joining the front and back piece at the shoulder seams. I lay them on top of each other inside out because we want to hide the stitching. I use glue and apply clips on both of the shoulders, then I sew them. I use an overlocker, but you can use any sewing machine as long as you use stitching that is made for stretchy fabric. With the shoulder seams in place, we can start working on the sleeves. But first, we need to find the sleeves center point. I like to fold the sleeves like this and make a small notch at the center point. I then align the notch with the shoulder seam. Then we know that the sleeve is placed perfectly in the sleeve opening. I align the sleeves, apply clips and glue to keep them in place, and stitch them together using the same method we did on the shoulder seam. We are now going to sew edge ribbons on the sleeve arm openings. I have binding folder for this job on my BabyLock Coverstitch machine. I use tweezers to guide the sleeves through the opening. Doing the side seam, I like to first align the sleeve opening, then under the arm and at the bottom. I then make sure that everything is straight and apply more clips. I can use an overlocker here, but the sleeve opening is so thick, so I went for a regular sewing machine with a false overlock seam instead. I used a straight stitch seam over the ribbons. If you don't have these options, you can use a zigzag seam or other seams for stretchy fabric. I'm making an edge ribbon at the bottom, using the same method as we did on the first sleeve opening. With the ribbons in place, we can close the onesie by sewing the last side seam. I use the same method as I did earlier. Straight stitch over the ribbons and false overlock seam on the rest of the side seam. Some of you have asked how I close my ribbons, so let me show you. First, I like to cut one of the ribbons. I then fold it over like this and stitch it in place. I then cut the other ribbon. I do the same for the sleeves as well. It's very straightforward on how we attach the collar. We just align the collar to the neck opening. I keep it in place by adding some glue and clips. I use an overlocker on the collar, but a regular sewing machine with a false overlock or zigzag seam is also possible. I add a ribbon inside the collar to give it some more professional look. I will place it here to hide the seam. It will also hide the button placket edge. We then fold the ribbons inside the collar like this and stitch it in place. The last step is applying buttons. I'm going to do this very simply and just apply ring snaps using my Prim Vario pliers. That's it! I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comment section. If you have purchased the pattern and need any additional help, feel free to log in to the 24/7 live chat and we will be happy to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. See you again soon, and as always, happy sewing!